I know you guys don't necessarily like to look back, but if you think about where you're standing here today with Daniel and what you had last year, how much development has he made to this point? Is it tangible? Do you see it out there, on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think anytime you're in a situation where you're in year two, you're more comfortable, obviously, and he is. And I think anytime you're learning a new system, there's just so much going on that it takes a little bit to just get comfortable. And the next year, you're not trying to figure out how to just call a play in the huddle. You know how to get in the huddle, call the play, and then you can get up to the line, see things easier, see things quicker. So yeah, there's definitely that tangible growth in terms of just comfortability, familiarity with the offense, and that bleeds over into everything else.
What can Darren Waller, in your opinion, like you've seen him now, I mean, he could do some different things. What can he do for Daniel?
Yeah,
the quarterback.
Yeah, anytime you're throwing to a guy who's got that size and that catch radius, he helps you. You don't always have to be perfect to him. He's going to go up and get that ball, and you have confidence in a guy like that. I think when you're throwing to a guy like that, you just have a lot more confidence of, hey, I'm going to put this ball in his vicinity. He's going to go make a play for me. That helps, not put so much, hey, I got to be perfect on this pass or I got to do exactly the right thing. He's seen it all camp. He's going up, wherever the ball's put, he can go and kind of pluck it for you. That always helps.
When you see that throw yesterday, I know Daniel threw one, it was like right on top of Adori's head, and he just went in court. But that throw is kind of what you're...
Yeah, and those are like, there's a degree of difficulty to both of those, Like the throw has to be in a spot where he can go get it, but then he's got to go get it too. So it's kind of, one guy helping the other out on a certain part of it. And, at the end of the day, it's just two guys making a really good play. I think it helps both of them out.
You, you're not the quarterback, but you have to be in the quarterback's head a lot. Does it help when a quarterback doesn't make a great throw and it gets completed? Almost like you rob a home run from a guy. It's like kind of thing.
Yeah, anytime. I think that just helps with confidence, comfortability, and all that. Like I said, you don't have the stress of having to be perfect. You can have some confidence in there that, hey, I put this ball out there, they're going to go make a play for me. That always helps from being back there, Alleviates some tension off of your shoulders. It just doesn't all have to be on you. And that's what not only Darren's done a great job of, but, Belly, Cager, all those guys in the tight end room, and then the receivers, Slayton, Isaiah, Paris, Beasley, Crowder, all those guys he's got tremendous confidence in, and so do we. And I think that's why we've done a good job of spreading the ball around all camp and letting guys go out and make plays.
You spent last year so much time working on making plays out of the pocket with every guy you had last year. I mean, we sat here and watched your drills all the time. With Daniel specifically, it seems like this year, especially last week in Detroit, the joint practices, the off-platform stuff that he's been able to do this year. I think of the throw to Slayton last week on that, whether it was a touchdown or two-point conversion. What goes into kind of drilling that off-platform, and do you almost see a quarterback when it becomes natural versus maybe when they force it a little bit?
Yeah, I think the credit first goes to Daniel. I know that was something he definitely worked on in the offseason down in Mobile with his private quarterback coach. They when we left here last offseason, we talked about doing that. He went and did that, executed his plan in the offseason, and then when we came back, because that was an emphasis, went ahead again. And it's just, how can we put him in random situations in the drill work? Because you never know when they're going to come up in a game or in a practice. So when we're drilling it, we do say, hey, we're working on off platforms, but don't necessarily say where you're going to rush. Don't necessarily say where the outlets are. Just kind of randomize it in different drills so he could go ahead and make a quick decision, get out, and now it becomes kind of a deal for him, like you said, to go ahead and naturally make a play.
I would think some guys, when they're told that, might force things, and you look and it just doesn't look natural. For him this year especially, it looks like he's comfortable doing this. That it's not just, hey, I'm going to make a funky play now. Right. It's comes natural to him.
Yeah, I think, again, it goes back to, like, you get what you emphasize to. So we're not emphasizing necessarily get out of the pocket and make plays, but when it's there and you feel it, you got to have kind of a natural feel, like you just said. And when you have that natural feel, it just becomes let your instincts take over and go. And he's done a really good job of kind of knowing, you know, the intent behind the play call factors in it too. There's times where you want to stay in the pocket a little longer because maybe we're, you know, having longer developing routes, or they're shorter routes and you know that time clock in your head is a little shorter because the timing of the patterns. So if that play clock goes off in your head a little earlier, you get out earlier. If it's not, you stay in and then make a play off of that. I think that's where he's understood, back to your original question, of his comfortability with the offense. He knows the timing of everything better. So that leads to better decisions of when not to run, when to run, when to stay in the pocket, when not to stay in the pocket.
You know, you mentioned all platform. I mean, improvisation is a part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, some guys are just more naturally creative and like that. You know, I mean, would you say that Daniel was probably not quite like, you know, this is something that has to be taught to him a little more? You know, some guys they just improvise. That's what they do.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it had to be taught to him. I would say just, you know, putting it in his thought process is more so the right thing. Sometimes, you know, when you're told, hey, here's the read, go through it like this, you know, that's kind of where you focus on. But if you can kind of, you know, bake into the thought process, like, hey, this is what we're trying to get accomplished, but again, we can't predict what the defense is going to do. You know, we're calling a play based on what we think they do. If we don't get it, what's your answer to get to? It's either scramble around and make a play. It's knowing where your check down is. I think so. Just emphasizing the thought process and the answer you have to have if you don't get what you're thinking just kind of helps.
I guess when we look at that, a lot of it sort of depends on Josh just taking a next step, right? Like if you can depend on him as a starter, that may result in other things happening, right?
I think you're reading into it.
But I guess when you look at him, he's a guy with the least track record. Okay, so right.
Yeah.
So where have you seen the growth in him that you say like, oh, here's some progress from this kid. We like what we're seeing. Where
I think it's not exclusive to Josh. I think you see a natural leap in players from year 1 to year 2.
Yeah.
And he is showing those same things. You can say the same thing about Evan Neal.
Yeah.
Players that go from year 1 to year 2 show a natural leap because there is not new stuff they're experiencing. So Josh is going through that exact same thing, but you could do the exact same thing with other players that are in the same situation as him, regardless of position. Year 1 to year 2, they make a leap. So that's where he's at.
What does John Michael bring to the table as a center that maybe, not meant to shot anybody, but that maybe didn't have a year ago?
I think with John Michael, the thing that he brings that's different than what we had a year ago was just the fact that he played center all through college. So John Feliciano, really good football player, trained under some really good centers, did a really good job for us last year. The difference is John Michael he's a natural center. That's what he's always been. That's what he's always gonna be. So as far as the things that he has, all centers need to be smart. They all need to be able to communicate. They all need to be able to lead. He has those intangibles. That's why we picked him.
Just going back and looking at the game the other night, it looked like you guys used him to pull a lot.
That's not anything that's mutually exclusive to him. That's just something that's part of our scheme.
What did you see from him in that game? Like, what was your impression of him in that game? What did you take away?
I think he validated what we saw in the draft evaluation process.
What's the hardest thing for a guy, a rookie center, to do in his first year learn? Like get to the second level?
Realizing that there are what we call werewolves every week. Okay, he sees one every day in practice. He's going to see one every week. I love the Big Ten. They don't have one every week. He's going to have one every week. So one of the things I asked him in the draft evaluation process was, how do you handle losing an individual battle? And he kind of smirked, and I knew what it meant. He's not used to it. I said, get used to it. It's going to happen to you. How are you to respond is going to be the biggest thing. And I think he's handled it really well.
And when you kind of responded to him in that way, how did he take that?
I think he understood. I think what he understood, because I detailed it out further in the conversation, which between he and I. But I made an example like Dexter Lawrence is one of the best in the league. You're going to practice against him every day. He's going to win a lot. You're just gonna have to compete, and he understood. He goes, I got it, and that's what he's done.
Have you actually watched it in real time happen?
Him competing against Dexter
and not winning?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all been. If you've been at practice, you've seen it.
Sure.
I mean, but I've also seen him like in his maturation. I've also seen him compete and start to have some success, which is a good thing to see a young player have success, against anybody, So, he's doing a really good job, and I expect him to continue to develop. He's going to hit some bumps, and how he responds is going to be a big thing for him, and I think he's made of the right stuff. He'll respond the right way.
You guys are asking Ben Bredesen to do a lot. I mean, play left, play right, play some backup center. How is he handling having all of that in his plate, and what do you see in him that you say we can have this guy? I ask
all my guys to have versatility. You ask any of my guys, I tell them in the room, versatility adds value. If you're not Andrew Thomas or Evan Neal, you better be able to play more than one spot. And that's just the nature of offensive line throughout the league. If you are not a clear-cut, bona fide, everyday starter, you have to have versatility, because you're gonna need that as a group during the season. So Ben's just doing what the job entails. He's a guy of high character. He busts his ass. He works hard at it. But that's what's expected. You're a pro. That's your job. So he does his job at the highest level that he is capable of doing, and that's all I can ask any guy.
Is there a point where you would like for him to focus on one more than the other? I know he could obviously do both, but it's
no, because at some point in time, like during the season, you do that, and all of a sudden you get an injury, and now it's the week of the game, and you got to ask a guy now I need you to transition.
Right.
I think you got to train for the worst case scenario all the time, and that way when it happens,
more like, instead of doing 50-50, doing it maybe 80-20 guard and then
I understand what
sliding
you're
back in.
Yeah, I right now he's doing what's asked of him based on the situation, and until the situation changes, then that's what's going to be asked of him, as well as anybody in the room. So that's kind of where we're at with that.
How do you feel? You guys have some of it was by necessity. Mm-hmm. I think 7 games last year where you used a 2-man rotation at guard.
Yep.
How do you feel about that? Would you prefer not to have to do that? If
it's going to do whatever it takes to win a game, whatever's best for the team.
What are the pros and cons of that situation?
If it's the best thing for the team, there are no cons. If it's not the best thing for the team, then there are cons. And the reason why we do it is because it's the best thing for the team. And I'm not being a smart ass about that, but that's the honest to God truth. If it's the best thing for the team, then that's what we'll do. If it's not the best thing for the team, then that's not what we'll do. And that's really based on the head coach. He has a pulse of the whole team. I coach a piece. I coach my piece based on what's best for the team. And if that's the best thing for the team, that's what we'll do.
What has Beasley brought to the table?
He's a guy that just has a ton of experience, not only in the system, but in the league. And, very instinctive and crafty player, a guy that can create separation in a small space and be able to burst away and make first downs. I think you saw some evidence of that the other night. And, I think his experience has been good for some of the younger guys in the room, too.
I mean, he's a guy, sometimes he makes it look easy. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, he's open. That's easy. He's open, but obviously it's not, or else everyone would.
No, you're right. He does have a knack for making it look a lot easier than it really is. I mean, if everybody could do it like he could, there'd be a lot of Cole Beasleys, but there just haven't been over the years.
Where do you feel like Shep is at right now?
I think you'd have to ask Shep that, really. But I think, when he's been out there, he's done a really nice job. He showed up, in all the practices that he's been at.
How big a challenge is it, do you think, for a guy to come back from that injury at his age?
Right. Again, that's probably a better question for him. But I know how hard he worked to get back. Really for the last 2 years, he's had to spend more hours rehabbing and going through the pain of rehabbing those 2 injuries, and you can see what kind of shape he's in. I think all that hard work's paid off for him.
What have you specifically? I don't really actually have a study.
Okay.
Specifically seen from him in this camp.
I think that you've seen him be able to get out there and separate. He's always had really reliable hands. Does a great job attacking the football, and is a high energy player. Plays with a lot of passion, intensity, and great toughness. So all those intangible qualities still exist. It's really just him, getting more comfortable and then, trying to, ramp up his load.
Are there things you can see in a game from him that you can't see in training camp?
Well, I mean, I think games are obviously different than practice. So it's just another tool in the evaluation process for us, as it is with all the players, not just Shep. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm sure that you were asked about Hyatt. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
With him and any of the concerns pre-draft that maybe other teams had or whatever the case was, where has he made the most growth, in your opinion, during this training camp?
Well, I think Jalen has come in very hungry and very humble. He certainly has been very diligent and just trying to learn our system. And he's gone out there when he's had opportunities, he's made plays. Part of our job as coaches is to learn the strengths of all the players and to get them in a position where they can do the things that they really do well. And, so we've been growing with him in that process, and I'm just trying to figure out, what the best role for him is. But he's been hungry and gone out there and made plays for us, and done a really good job with everything that we've asked.
The wide receiver group as a whole seems such a strong group. How tough is it going to be to not have the entire group with you?
Well, yeah, you get used to having everybody there every day. It's the tough part about this business is you got to let some good players go and good people go. It's been very competitive, and I think competition is good for everybody in every profession. Your profession, certainly in professional football, and it's only made the guys better.
What have you seen out of on the other side, on the quarterback side of Tommy DeVito? He seems like a young guy that feels like he belongs. He conducts himself like he belongs, despite the fact that
I think he's done a good job of just coming in and kind of staying in the background and speaking when he's spoken to, but then quietly getting better each and every day, and he did a really nice job the other night.
Isaiah's kind of had a quiet camp, and perhaps just because of circumstances where the natural thing is to look at the new guys. But how has his camp been? How would you evaluate the camp?
Yeah, I think Isaiah is a very good player for us. Certainly a very reliable and dependable player. Plays with a lot of toughness. Quarterback's got a lot of confidence in him. So he's from that standpoint, he hasn't changed. I think from a technical standpoint, you see some improvement from him. Some of the things we talked to him about that, we want to see a little bit of an improvement in some certain areas, and I think he's been diligent about that, and, I'm pleased with his growth.
What did you want to see him
I wouldn't want to get into that.
To another level.
For him, no.
Okay.
Do you see Slayton as a little bit of a leader of the group for obvious reasons in terms of longevity here?
Yeah, I mean, he's the old guy now, isn't he, right? He and Shep certainly are the oldest Giants, and, confidence is a result of demonstrated performance, and, Shep's certainly an example of that, and Slayton to be able to have the kind of season that he had last year, certainly to come out of camp and just keep his head down, roll up his sleeves, and go to work. And then when he had an opportunity to make some plays, he made plays. And I know Daniel's got a lot of confidence in him, and we do certainly as a coaching staff have a lot of confidence in Slay.
There are some teams that the Eagles come to mind who have 2,000-yard receivers. Do you see this team as, because of maybe its greatest strength in wide receiver is depth, that maybe that might not happen, but that doesn't matter?
I think the only thing that really matters is having more points each and every week. That's the only stat that really matters. However you get those points, you got the right guys on the team. They're putting the team first, and that's what all of us are here to do, is to win football games.
Could you see a scenario, though, where the ball is spread quite a bit among?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, whatever it takes to win each and every week, and you got to do whatever it takes to win that game against that team that week. And sometimes it's going to be where a guy, maybe it's two guys got 100 yards receiving, or maybe it's Saquon's got 200 yards rushing. I mean, we do have some weapons, and I think that's a good thing or a good problem to have. And the ball's going to find the guy based on what coverage we get and how Daniel distributes it.
Tremendous size and length and competitiveness. That's the thing that probably jumps out the most with him, is how competitive he is. I think our scouting department, Joe and his guys, did a phenomenal job of identifying him as a guy late in the draft. Like, you look at him now and you think he should have gone earlier. So credit to them for identifying him and selecting him, and so now is just, continuing to grow him and teach him and get him ready to go.
Like, what's your comfort level if he's a week one starter in your nickel outside? Throwing him out there?
I mean, whoever we start with, obviously you're going to feel comfortable with. and you got to go in with that confidence, and that's the way that Wink, leads the defense. That's the way Dave leads the team, and that's the way I try to lead the secondary. Is like whoever we throw out there, we have complete faith in. Let's go.
I mean, is this the deepest room you've had here?
Yes, it is. I was had this conversation with the guys the other day that, usually in training camp, I'm quite honestly used to having a couple guys who you really think probably aren't quite good enough, but everybody in that room really is, and everybody potentially has a place, but that's not this league. Everybody can't stay. So I know the conundrum for the guys in the room, some of the guys fighting for spots. It's a really competitive group.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a strange year for the league because there's only one cut, so these guys really aren't going to have much of a chance of making it with another team other than their tape.
Yeah, and so that's why for them and as they're out there with us, when you put on that Giants uniform, we want you to go out and play like a Giant. And for those guys who are at the bottom, hopefully somebody else sees what they're doing, looks and says, wow, that's somebody, we would like to add. I hope that for the guys that don't make it, but the reality of our league is they all won't make it, which is, it's the best part of our league and it's the worst part of our league at the same time.
Where in particular have you seen Deontay grow throughout camp and get to a point where even a small sample size tonight, but he played pretty well in that game. Mm-hmm. So where have been his biggest growth points this month?
Just every day meeting with him, just trying to get him to take another step. Again, really competitive kid. And you saw that even go up in the game. When he got in the game, you could see that he went to a new level, which I appreciated. My task with him now is to get him to play the game level every day in practice. Every day in practice, we're at game level, with our intensity, with our thinking, with our mentality. And same thing with he and Trey, as those young guys, just trying to get them to understand that you're either getting better or somebody's catching you every day.
On the ball that Williams had a step on him, went off his hands. He was able to whack him on the arms as that went in. That's one where a young guy could come to the sideline and let that get to him a little bit, maybe. What did you see in his demeanor and how he responded to it?
No, he's a cool character that way and is not easily rattled. And I thought he made a good play. I thought he was in good position on that play. I thought that, his presence even, you feel a guy right there is part of it. Yeah. And I thought he made he has a different type of strength. And when he hits your hands, you feel it. So I think that you may be not giving him as much credit for that play as I gave him.
That's fair.
So I thought it was a good play. I thought he was in good position.
Jason Pinnock made a play early in training camp that, lit up the tote board. And, I mean, he hasn't stopped. I mean, is he surprised?
He hadn't surprised me. He's from the first time that we got him last year, coming over from the Jets, you saw an explosive athlete. He is one of the most explosive athletes on our team. And that was from when he first walked in the door. He was, there's a lot that we had to get cleaned up and coach with him and taught about the safety position and how we play the safety position. And Mike Trier's done a phenomenal job with him, working with him, and Wink's done a phenomenal job of putting him in positions to highlight who he is and what he is. And he's just continuing to play well and to grow.
As a DB, do you kind of watch that interception a couple of times and go, wow?
As anybody, that was an impressive play, and especially on Waller, because he's so big and long that you watch him in camp and it's been hard for us to defend him. He's so big and long, if he gets a step, it's 8. And for him to go up and make that play and to have the poise and the calm to go up and make it, it was a special play. And, he's has those type of plays in him.
This group
is very athletic this year. How does it help you scheme-wise, flexibility to do what you want to do?
Yeah, it gives Wink, I think, matchup options that this week, it may sometimes we move the matchups around, move the people around based on their skill set versus the skill sets we're going against. And at the end of the day, if you look at our secondary last year, I think we had 12 or 13 guys play. And because of injuries and different things that happen, and that'll probably happen again this year. Guys are going to go down, and we're going to need other guys to step up. And so the depth in our room, we know at some point in the year will be tested, and we're just going to continue to try to build the whole group, and so that we have a very successful year.
Is the prospect of starting 2 rookie cornerbacks, does it make your job more what? You know what I mean? As opposed to 6-year guy, 4th-year guy.
Obviously there's a learning curve for those guys. But on the other side of the learning curve, there's also an aggressiveness to just go play with those guys that they're just happy to be out there and just want to go play and not going to back down for much. So, there's both sides, I guess, of what they will experience. I'm excited for them and their opportunity, and we'll see how it plays out.
With Riley, watching him last week in those joint practices, I saw a jump from a guy who maybe I wasn't necessarily watching during practice. What did you see from him, and why is he making those leaps seemingly daily?
Well, I think he's bought in from the day that he showed up here. And, he's shown improvement every day in every practice. And I think he understands too, he still has ways to go as a player. And he's just trying to get better every day. And he's bought into the things that we're trying to teach him and was willing to make changes in his game. And I think hopefully, he's seeing those improvements on tape and letting it start to become a part of him. But he still has a long way to go as a player. But I'm glad we have him, and I love his mindset of trying to continue to improve.
Not to completely dominate the questions, but just one more on Riley. You had told us many times when it's in the draft, you told us what you liked about Dex when he was coming out, Leo, guys that you know. Is Riley one of those guys that you identified in the process and said, boy, I'd like to get my hands on him? And what was most important for you with him to kind of convince him this is what you need to do?
Well, I think it was a combination of myself and Joe and his staff. He had the traits that we were looking for: big, long, athletic. And so that's what piqued my interest at the beginning. Obviously, the play on film didn't match his skill set. And so then we had to get to know him, so between myself and Brian Cox and our scouting staff, spending time with him, going down there and working him out, understanding his background. And we said, okay, hey, this is a guy that we can work with and see if we can get his play to match his physical gifts, And so, those have kind of been the guys through my career that I've kind of jumped on, and hopefully he could be the next one that end up being a really good player in this league. But he's got a long ways to go, and I'm happy where he is right now, but he's not at the end. He's at the beginning, and I think he understands that, and I understand that.
Coach, you said that Jordan was willing to make changes. What are some examples of that?
Well, I think, and it's not just Jordan. It's Nacho, Ashawn, they're vets, but we changed their game too, right? And so, what we do with our hands, what we do with our feet, how we make contact, how we get off blocks is a little bit different, how we rush. So, you've got to be willing to submit to coaching. And sometimes it's hard for players to do. They've been a good player in high school, they've been a great player in college, or they wouldn't be here, right? And for the veteran guys, they've been good players in this league, and it's easy for you to stay in your comfort zone. So I have a great deal of respect for those guys to be willing to say, hey, coach me. Be humble enough to say, coach me. just like Dex and Leo did when I first got here. And so, I think, in that regard, I'm really fortunate. So it's just not Riley, it's all the guys.
So quickly, Jordan's one of those guys that came in from college and said, hey, coach me. He's one of those guys willing to be coached.
Oh, no question, from the day he walked in. But again, those conversations were being made before he was drafted. Right. We spent time with him, we talked to him, right. And so those conversations we were having with him before he even came in the door. So he understood that, hey, you're gonna have to let go of what you've been told before in 3 different colleges, right, right. And learn how to play it the way we want you to play. And from the day he's walked in here, it's been coach me, show me how you want me to do it, he changed his stance, everything was brand new, and it was uncomfortable for him, but he's willing to fight through it, and that's a good thing.
Andre, Bobby was talking about before. I asked him, what does John Michaels will he see in the NFL that he didn't see at the last level? And his answer was werewolves, mm-hmm. And that being with you guys, Dexter. And mm-hmm. What have you seen from John Michaels' side when he deals with being beaten by somebody who's one of the best?
Well, the one thing I can tell you, I went and told him yesterday he's gotten better. And I told him after the first day, I said, hey man, just keep fighting. It's gonna work out for you, right? Because the thing that's gonna happen is what you're dealing with every day in practice, you're not gonna deal with every Sunday. So once you understand how to play it, how to deal with him, the games are gonna be easier. And the kid has gotten better every single day. And I went through it when I had Linville Joseph, and we drafted a young center and saw him go through that every day, right? And so that's why, I kind of go by him every day as, hey man, you're getting better, keep fighting, just keep fighting in there. And the kid's gonna be a good player. It's a great thing for him.
Who was the center?
I had him, it was in Minnesota.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
With Dex, we know what he accomplished last year. Mm-hmm. He gets a big contract. I know there's satisfaction. Everybody's proud to have a role in that. What have you seen from Dex year 2 under this coaching staff?
He works hard every day. He comes in, he works hard every day. He doesn't practice or come to meetings like he's made it, or like, I'm the guy, I'm the superstar, right? He's still trying to learn. He's still trying to progress his game. And, we have those conversations all the time. As soon as you feel like you made it, and as soon as you feel like, oh, I'm a Pro Bowl player, I'm ranked in the top 100, I've done it all, then your game goes backwards. You gotta have a drive in this league to continue to improve and get better. And that's been his mindset since he's been back.
You look how dominant he was at times last year. How much better can Dexter Lawrence be?
No, he could be. Hey, he's going to continue to grow. He has to. That's this league. If you don't, it's going to pass you by. So, as a coach, you can never put a ceiling on your player. Once you put a ceiling on your player, you're going to put him in a downward spiral. So, my job and his job is to continue to improve, continue to add more and more to your game. And when you keep that hunger, then your level never plateaus, and it never goes down. And he understands that because I understand that.
Can you see a different level of Leo this year because he's healthy? Is that noticeable?
Yeah, I think Leo's had a great camp. He's in great shape. Knock on wood, his body's healthy. And I think he's had a great camp, and he's just got to keep going with it. And I think it's going to play out for him to have a great year.
How much do you think that, when the average person looks and says, oh, he's got this, he's got a leg, or he's got a neck or whatever, but not realizing how impactful that is in the actual play, how much do you think that impacted him?
No, I think it impacts every player, but it shows his toughness and his desire to play for the team that he played through all that last year. And it's the first time in his career he's been hurt. So for him to deal with that and to play through that and to be out there for his teammates and for the team, says a lot for him. But I think he's looked really good, and he's we just got to keep it going that way until we start to play the real games.
So far, so good with Aziz?
Yeah, it's been great. Great start. The whole group's really working hard and just attacking the details, and he's been awesome. every day coming out with great enthusiasm, really taking his game to another level. It's been fun to watch.
I mean, the key is every day.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
It's. I mean, what, how has that been monitored, and how, I mean, not holding your breath, I guess, but he's been unable to do this in other years.
Right. And I think it's just all from last year on, there's been a great plan, like Ronnie Barnes and his staff, and then our training staff, and strength and conditioning guys. Everyone's had a great plan for not just him, but really anybody coming back. So it's just build that level of confidence where he's playing fast, he's playing confident, and it's a tribute to everybody that got him healthy and got him rolling and just keeping him that way. And same as everybody else right now. It's we're playing fast, we're playing physical, and getting really good work.
You you did not have those guys, Kayvon and Aziz, on the field very much. Does that keep you going, thinking, I can get 60 snaps on 2 of them in a game, what we could do?
Yeah, I think anytime you can get 2 guys that can test those edges, whether it's setting edges, rushing the passer, and just presenting different looks to an offense, that just gives more weapons for Wink to scheme up, and really more guys that can get after that quarterback. And the more healthy bodies you can throw at that quarterback, the better. And both those guys are really showing great signs of improvement there, and it's just day by day getting better at those little details.
You can count, it's not your jurisdiction, so to speak, but do you count Dexter in the middle also? I mean, you have 2 guys on the edges, but if the middle is not really doing, what I mean? It's 1, 2, and then 3. Is that?
Oh, for sure, and count Leo in there too. Yeah. I mean, it's a really formidable front, and including the inside backers who will blitz. Our safeties are really good blitzers. Like, there's a lot of ways you could affect the quarterback, and we have a good group of people that have been attacking that all training camp.
So even like in Florham Park, they said we have the best front group. We have the teams all said we have the best front group. Do you think your guys think that way?
Yeah, I think they're not as into comparing. I think it's a really humble group that's just trying to get that quarterback every single play. I don't think they think big picture of the rest of the league. I know they just work. It's a great group that works. They all communicate really well together, which is important for a pass rush, that the edges and the inside guys work together, whether it's games or covering for each other or just naturally falling into place off of each other's rush. And that comes with reps, that comes with experience, and that's, we're talking about getting all 4 of those guys out there together. You get that synergy going, and you really feed off of each other, and we're seeing that show up.
What are your general expectations for Kayvon?
Yeah, I think we attack those things really. I know it's a cliche, right? But it's one day at a time. And what we want to do today is, hey, we're focused on this package today. We're focused on, yesterday was run and play action pass. So we want to be great setting edges and playing the boots and play action game. So it's really just attacking those things one day at a time, and that stuff will come down the line. But I think camp's long enough where you set those daily goals. By the end of that thing, you see where you're at, and then you attack it from there during the season.
What have you seen from Ojulari just so far?
Yeah, he's really, he came in a great pass rusher, and he's attacked those details to become even better there. But he really is making a jump in the run game, and he's setting violent edges, shedding off with his hands really well, and really just building to become, like everybody in that room, becoming a complete player.
Do you think he's tired of being injured?
I would say anybody who's been injured probably doesn't like being injured, but I think he's showing a great enthusiasm. He's working really hard, and he's winning a lot of rushes. He's doing a lot of things really well. So I think all that is in the past. Like good or bad, we just put last year in a bucket and leave it there. So he's really, you can see how he's playing right now. He's playing with a great spirit, great enthusiasm, and he's flying around to the football.
You might have answered this already, but with Thibodeau, Wink made a point, I think it was yesterday, about, in the middle of the room and kind of, it sounded like empowering Kayvon, but I think some other folks took it a different way. Do you know what the intent was there or what the message was?
So Wink does an unbelievable job in what we call the keep it real meetings.
Okay.
And every guy on the roster, whether you're, superstar or the guy that just got here 2 days ago, he's going to know exactly where they stand and what things we can build on to get to the max of your potential. Because, being around Wink, he doesn't care who you are, what your role is, he wants you to reach your max. So that's something that, with everybody in the room, they've heard that message.
Okay.
You know,
Directed at them.
Directed at them.
Okay.
So however many, what do we got? 45 guys, 43 guys on defense. Every single guy is going to get a great message of empowerment, of, hey, here's one thing we can focus on tomorrow. Here's one thing long term for you. So that's really the whole defense. I think, you know, you could pick out any guy there, and they'd have something to, you know, build on.
Right.
But we're always trying to just recalibrate the mountain, right? Like we reached this point, go get to the next one, go get to the next one there. And that's one of the great things, one of many great things about Wink, is that he's always going to pull the best out of everybody.
But do you as a coach a guy differently when he has the potential of a Kayvon Thibodeau?
I think it's our jobs as coaches to coach everybody as hard as we possibly can. No matter what their role is, what their potential is, you're pulling that out of everybody. Now, what that may mean, what those expectations are, we're trying to reach their max. So some guys' max might be different than others, but we're trying every single day, whether it's the first or the last guy on the roster, we're going to coach them equally as hard.
And the message can be different given how a player kind of receives a message, right?
So everybody has standards here, and everyone is, you know, held to those standards. It's great. Like the way that Wink attacks it, everyone has these high standards for, you know, the defense, for themselves, and everyone's working really hard right now to meet those. Yeah.
All right, might as well ask you. Okay. So Saquon signs, shows up. How great is it to have him here, and what do you think of him as a player?
Man, he's been awesome to work with, man. Whether really good kid, obviously great player, real leader for us, you know, on our football team, and him along with a lot of the other running backs, man, they're working their butts off, you know, getting ready for the season, and you know, it's been a great experience so far.
So when you heard the news that he was signing and is going to be here, what were your emotions, your sense of relief that, like, all right, we're going to have them here, not going to be any uncertainty?
Obviously, I was excited. You know, I've followed him a lot over the years, you know, coaching the NFL, you know, 14th year, so I always admire, you know, a lot of the, you know, really good running backs in the league, and, you know, study them all the time, and really was excited when, you know, he decided to, you know, come to training camp and got everything done, you know, business-wise, and like I said, excited he's here and looking forward to hopefully him having a great year for us.
How would you describe his demeanor despite, you know, maybe not getting the deal done that he wanted?
He's been great. I mean, like I said, he's one of the leaders on the team. He's working his butt off. I mean, there hasn't been anything alarming or anything, you know, since he signed, and, you know, he's been back here. I know his teammates are excited he's here, and like I said, he's a real leader, you know, among the offensive players, you know, on our team.
What do you observe about him around his teammates in particular, Jeff?
I think he leads by example. I think he really works hard in the classroom. He works hard on the field. He's also, you know, he's a vocal leader in the meeting room. You know, I think the guys trust him. He knows the offensive system. You know, it's been really good for Eric Gray. You know, to have a guy like you know, Saquon here to kind of, you know, teach him the offense, teach him how to play NFL running back, and like I said, he's done a fantastic job.
He's receptive with Gray?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
No.
He was
sense
one of the, when we drafted him, he was one of the first guys like who texted our running back group chat and was like, let me have Eric's number. You know, he wanted to talk to him. So he's been all in. Like I said, he's been great, and like I said, really excited. You know, for this year.
What was it like for you in the months that you didn't talk with Saquon to anticipate having him?
It was fine. You know, we have the Penn State connection. Yeah, that's right. You know, so you know, we talked. You know, once every 2 weeks. You know, we would. Saquon.
During the whole time.
Yeah. Like he would check in with me, and you know, we would just. Nothing big, nothing about business or anything, but just to say hello and call to see how he's doing. And
so this wasn't a Cold War.
No, not at all. Not at all. Like I said, we're just glad everything from the business side got done, and he's here and excited for a great season.
Corbin seems to have popped a few big ones recently. What do you like about how he's
really like his progress? You know, our young running backs, Corbin, Gray, to go along with you know, some of the veteran guys, Robinson and Breida. You know, they've all done a nice job working hard, really competing. You know, there's a lot of competition right now, you know, in the backfield, you know, among the guys we have. Obviously Gary Brightwell too, you know, he's a little nicked up right now, but a lot of competition, and the guys have responded. I think we've had some really good training camp practices where they're competing, and these next couple weeks are going to be really important for those guys to keep progressing and obviously try to make the football team.
What is Corbin doing well?
He's becoming a 3-down running back. I mean, he's really comfortable with the system. Really pleased with the way he's picking up pass protections. I thought he was a plus last game as far as being able to block linebackers and safeties. That's a big job of running back, especially on third down, to be able to trust them in protection and be able to protect our quarterbacks. And he did a nice job last preseason game, and in our joint practices with Detroit. He's really progressing well in that aspect of his game.
In 2 weeks or so, you have to make a decision on how do you look at that? Is that like something you sit there and go, I don't like doing this?
No, I mean it's part of the business. So we always tell our players, your tape is your resume. So whatever you put on the tape, that's how that's what's going to decide your future. But we have a lot of talent here, and like I said, at the running back position, and like I said, they're working hard, and it's going to be some tough decisions that have to be made. But they're doing their part, and keeping their end of the bargain as far as working hard, learning our offensive system, and going out and performing in practice.
Do you like seeing Saquon getting knocked over in practice and jumping up and getting in somebody's face?
Yeah, it's football. I mean, it's football, so it's good that he's getting some contact in training camp, getting ready for the season here in a couple of weeks. So, football's football, man. Sometimes you're gonna get tackled in practice. When you got 22 guys flying all over the field, that's going to happen. So, like I said, he's ready to go. I mean, we're getting to that point where in a couple of weeks, hopefully he'll peak. Going into week 1.